Hey guys, you are welcome back to Top 5. From secret government places to closed cities and to secret signals, we've talked about a lot of interesting things in our previous videos. Today we are going to be talking about the top 5 prisoners that are too evil for hell. There is no shortage of extremely dangerous and terrifying people in prisons all over the world, but these people on my list might just put the devil to shame. We are talking about evil criminals today that are in prison for the crimes they committed. Here are the top 5 real prisoners that are too evil for hell. Kicking off the list from number 5, the Golden State Killer. If you have any interest in true crime at all, you definitely must have heard of the Golden State Killer, as he was one of the most serial killers of all time, and he managed to elude the police for 30 years from 1973 to 1986. The GSK was responsible for taking the lives of 13 people, harming 50, and 120 different burglaries all across California. Throughout the process of investigation, he used different tactics to both taunt and threaten the police and victims, which is just insanely crazy. If you don't know how the story ended, sit tight and buckle up because it is absolutely wild. You know those family DNA tests, where you send in your DNA and then they send you back your genealogy. Basically, these services helped identify who the real GSK was. In 2018, an FBI lawyer known as Steve Kramer uploaded the GSK DNA profile that they were able to obtain from the crime scenes to the website GetMatch. They were able to find 10 to 20 people who had the same great-great-grandparents as the match. From there, a genealogist made a large family tree, and then they were able to single out 2 main suspects, after covertly connecting DNA samples from one of the suspects and comparing them to the crime scene DNA. They were finally able to arrest Joseph James DeAngelo, who was the Golden State Killer. After decades of waiting, the victims of his crimes were finally able to see justice served, as he was sentenced to 12 life sentences plus 8 years. He was spared the death penalty because he admitted to numerous crimes he had perpetrated, some of which he wasn't even charged for. He is now 75 years old and he will most certainly spend the rest of his life in prison. The 4th one on our list is Warren Jeffs. Warren Jeffs is the president of the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ and the Latter-day Saints. He is also serving a life plus 20-year sentence, which is exactly where he should be. His father was once the president, but when he passed away, the position was passed on to Warren as the new leader of the polygamist. He said that no one should even attempt to marry any of his father's widows, but just a few days later he himself married all of them except for 2, because one refused and then was banned from ever marrying anyone ever again, and the other ran away. If your marriage proposal causes someone to run away, then you are clearly not a good person. Warren had the power to assign who would marry who, but he was also able to punish a man by taking his wives and children and assigning them to another man. As a man, you had to have at least 3 wives in order to get into heaven, they say, but the more wives you have, the more likely for you to get into heaven. In 2005, the Texas authorities conducted a raid and took custody of 416 children after someone called in and tipped them off about all of the horrible things that were happening at the ranch. In 2006, Warren was arrested for being the worst and is still serving his sentence. There's a lot more to this case that we cannot fully cover in this video because of time, but if you want to know more about this horrible person, drop your comments below. Number 3, James Holmes. The 3rd one on our list is James Holmes. James is the man behind the 2012 Aurora, Colorado shooting that took the lives of 12 people and injured 70 others in the Century 16 movie theater. Shortly after the crime spree, he was arrested and held without bail, while he awaited trial on an accepted plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. James was and is severely mentally ill, but the court has the job of deciding whether or not that illness made him unable to tell right from wrong. That's what the defense had to prove. Things were admitted to the court, such as his notebooks and journals, as well as testimony from 2 separate psychologists, who spent about 25 hours with him and both diagnosed him with a serious mental illness, but both also stated that in their professional opinion he knew right from wrong. After a really tumultuous trial, he ended up being found guilty. The jury could have given him a death sentence, but on account of his illness they decided that it would be inappropriate. In the end, he was instead sentenced to 12 life sentences without parole and an additional 318 years. The second on our list is Joanna Dennehy. Joanna is responsible for a series of killings and attacks that took place in March 2013. Joanna is a very cold and heartless person and has on many occasions been said to laugh at her crimes and the life she took even while still behind bars. After the first of her crimes, authorities launched a manhunt for her and they used CCTV footage to help track her down. She was finally caught after attacking 2 dog walkers who, thanks to immediate medical intervention, were able to survive. On the day she was sentenced, it was reported that the judge, Mr. Spencer Justice, said, "Although you pleaded guilty, you've made it clear that you have no remorse." He went on to say, I quote, "You are a cruel, calculating, selfish and manipulative serial killer." After this, he sentenced her to a whole life imprisonment without parole, and it is said she smiled and laughed. Since her time in prison, she is said to have planned escape attempts that involved the killing of a prison guard and other terrifying ideas. And the number 1 on our list is Stephen Griffiths. Stephen was a PhD student who wanted to achieve fame, but through the most sinister way possible. Between June 2009 and May 2010 he took the lives of 3 separate women. His criminal history was also extremely concerning, as years ago he was arrested due to an unprovoked attack on a grocery store manager, and it is said that he previously stated that he saw himself becoming a serial killer. Shortly after he was arrested for his crimes, CCTV footage emerged that shows him celebrating after taking the life of his final victim. The footage showed him holding a crossbow and giving the finger directly to the camera. It is said that Stephen pleaded guilty to his crimes once caught, not because he was remorseful but because he wanted to receive the recognition for them. Alright guys, this is our list for today, and thanks so much for checking it out. Please don't forget to hit the like button and smash the subscribe button to get notification when the next video is posted. We got a lot of interesting videos coming up, and trust me, you don't want to miss them.